How come a leopard can't play hide and seek? Because he's always spotted?
Austin Lee Russell became a fan favorite on the hit game show Pawn Stars due to his endearing and amusing Chumley persona. It is quite large. It not only accentuates your haircut, but also makes great sense given your baldness. Corey Harrison was clearly qualified for the position as he was a close friend of a 5-year gold and silver pawnshop employee. Though the tone is humorous, Chumley's life has changed dramatically and unexpectedly. From a successful reality star to this, how did Chumley get here? Why were these quite severe charges leveled? Help us to put together the events preceding this startling shift in his life. Let's first look at his early years and how he gained notoriety before we get into the most current headlines. Early childhood of Chumley. Austin Lee Russell, well known by his stage moniker Chumley, entered this life in Henderson, Nevada on September 8, 1982. When he was 12 years old, he was given the moniker Chumley because of his quite huge chin and face. One friend of his thought he resembled Chumley, the walrus character from the Tennessee Tuxedo animated television show. The father of the acquaintance shared this conviction. "What are you doing?" My dream was really amazing. From that moment and ever since, people have been calling him Chumley. To the best of my knowledge, it was a major battle fought on the Western Front. I would say such. Chum, you are not unusual in surprising me. At 21, Chumley started working at the pawn store specializing in precious metal sales. Along with loading goods and evaluating things, he was in charge of generating tickets for what consumers had purchased. Chumley worked there for 5 years before Pawn Stars' July 2009 start of production. How did Chumley's experience in the pawn shop alter his path and bring about the changes that finally resulted in his incarceration? Scheduled to make another appearance in court tomorrow, Chumley, one of the most well-known reality show stars in the Valley, is best recognized for his participation in Pawn Stars. He is accused of narcotics and weapons concurrently. At the same time, he is accused of sexual assault. Watching will provide your query with the solution: the Pawn Gallery. Opening on Las Vegas Boulevard South in 1981, Richard Harrison's father's first thrift store, the Gold and Silver Coin Shop, covered 300 square feet. Richard worked there during the day and would repossess cars after hours. They stayed for 5 years and then relocated to a larger location on Fremont Street. Their lease ended 2 years ago, hence they had to choose a new site in a commercial neighborhood off of Las Vegas Boulevard. Richard and his father's goal has always been to turn the company into a pawn store. I have always been engaged in the trading of products. Like the pawn store my dad owned, I wanted to run one when I was a little child, seeing it as a necessary evolution. However, a 1955 Las Vegas ordinance prohibited the issuing of new pawn licenses based on municipal population. Then I headed to City Hall, where they flatly turned down my proposal to create a pawn shop. By 1988, around 200,000 people were residing there. That figure was fast rising. Richard often phoned the city statistician to monitor the population, considering it is a city-owned territory. I then developed the practice of weekly calling the city statistician. In that case, they might seek a pawn license after it reaches 250,000. Richard and his father overcame various legal obstacles and got their pawn license when they reached the required population threshold in 1989. Found less than 2 miles from the Las Vegas Strip at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South, the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop opened that year. From debts totaling around $3 million, the business was generating almost $700,000 in interest by 2005. The store became well known in 2006 for offering unusual sports items like Super Bowl rings from the 2001 New England Patriots and cornerback Brock Williams. How should I answer Dan Marino in what respects? Ring straight from the Super Bowl. This is the actual Patriots Super Bowl ring from 2001 when they faced the Rams. Gamblers in need of quick money to go home also often visited the company for help. Richard said that in 2010, jewelry was the most often pawned item. When the pawn store first opened, whose well-known personalities showed up? How also did Chumley help the initiative? We have to check. The Pawn Stars and the legendary presence on the program of Chumley. Often acting as the humorous relief for the program, Chumley is the goofy bringing everyone in on the joke. Lift your jeans slightly. Today I felt driven to match your hot cheeks with your underwear and shoes. Often teased by the other show performers, he is said to be not very brilliant and to make too many mistakes. He contacted me again yesterday, however. Someone bought him. Damn, for some tennis shoes it amounts to a lot of money. Chumley, I believe that's what it is. This makes some of them the village idiot. Still, Chumley has said he is sometimes overlooked. For instance, Corey was surprised by his thorough understanding of pinball machines, which he showed in the second season's second episode, Pinball Wizards. Inquiring about the probable sale of 2 pinball machines, a consumer got in touch with the company. Through the jokes, Chumley's knowledge in many fields was evident. Her great performance on Pawn Stars helped Chumley to become a fan favorite very fast. Being the most popular pawnshop employee in Las Vegas, his kind demeanor has helped him become well known worldwide. The program's success motivated him to launch his own company, offering the original products he had developed. He also started public outings. Selling Rick Harrison half of his shares for $155,000 in 2010, he broke ways with him. This arrangement allowed the pawn shop to handle orders for his items faster. More item sales than any other show star result from Chumley's popularity. One of Pawn Stars' most unforgettable sequences is the encounter between Chumley and Bob Dylan. Though Chumley regards getting Bob Dylan to sign his self-portrait CD as one of his best moments on the show as a strange event, Chumley believes it to be definitely the most significant. You know Bob Dylan here. Every incident as shown in the episode really happened. We watched him naturally walking into the trailer without a microphone or anything. Chumley flooded with memories of the moment's spontaneity. More shockingly even, I had no idea he would agree, much less sign an album. It was only driven by impulse. "Hey, could you sign this for me?" I queried him. "Would you like him to bring up anything else?" Though I laughed at his signing it, Chumley spelled it wrong. "Bob Dylan doesn't need your edit." "Chumley laughs," comes the response. The conference had much to offer. Subsequently, we were given the amazing chance to feature in one of his music videos. Chumley also mentions the Like a Rolling Stone music video, in which many people sing the song as TV switches on different channels. Chumley remembers Mick Foley's recent visit and muses on past, once unprofitable events. Chumley claims Mick Foley paid a surprise visit to the show this year. From my early years and beyond, he has been a symbol. At last, seeing him personally and getting a sense of his personality was fantastic. Memories returned flooding. Another famous event happened around the 18-season point, when a dealer offered for sale Nintendo video games with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out in perfect condition, inside protective boxes. Though they presented a minimum price of $60,000, the vendor kept a strong posture at $70,000, a large sum. 95 or so. My dear, would you like to travel 55? Not number. Your level is how low? Measuring my physique, what is the lowest point? 70. For you, is 60 minutes a reasonable meeting point? Chumley talks about how current affairs might affect the value of the game, using Mike Tyson's opinions on a rematch with Evander Holyfield. He says the Nintendo Entertainment System has some fantastic games. Well, Chumley argues, Rick should definitely make sense while handling such kind of money. Usually he detests using video games. Recent online sources made me believe that the game's last selling price exceeded $770,000. Would Rick alter his mind about the purchase of it? Maybe. But it reminds me of our large Charizard Pokemon assortment from a past season. Some of those cards are available for several $100s right now. Does Rick also regret not buying those? Surely. When you pawn something, you can only pay the current market value. Rick is more traditional, and Chumley contrasts his style with his. I'm somewhat more flexible. I try to see trends and predict inflation in prices. I won't spend too much, but sometimes I will go a little bit over average, he admits. Rick is less prone to do that. Chumley confesses that negotiating big amounts of money generates both excitement and anxiety as they discuss the hazards of their business. He agrees that his blood starts flowing with a price tag of $100,000. Rick sometimes catches us off balance. If he discovers something he might sell quickly, he could overpay to make a fast profit. As Chumley notes, in the realm of pawnbroking, where every deal is a calculated risk, their daily activities at the Las Vegas Gold and Silver Pawn Shop define themselves by smart decisions and sometimes gambles. There was a place for Chumley's friend, Corey Harrison. Could this part have helped to explain the sad result? Indeed, what is it? Watch this space as we expose all the facts. Life of Corey Harrison, a buddy of Chumlee. Born on April 27, 1983, Corey Big Hoss Harrison is an American businessman and reality TV personality, most known for his part in the historical series Pawn Stars. Being the grandson of Richard Benjamin Harrison and the son of Kim and Rick Harrison, Corey grew up closely engaged in the pawnshop industry. At the early age of 9, he started working at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas. He co-owns this business with his father, Rick. Known as Big Hoss, Corey took on significant shop duties and showed fast evaluation ability. Reflecting his wide involvement in the everyday operations of the company, his responsibilities included managing eBay customers as well as recruiting and dismissing staff. Corey's participation expanded over time, and he eventually became the manager of a 30-person staff. Corey's keen eye for priceless objects and ability to spot frauds and make wise choices have been fundamental for Pawn Stars' success. Still, Corey's road hasn't been without difficulties. The program often shows him handling disagreements with his grandpa and father on inventory control, sales tactics, and expensive purchases. In a noteworthy episode, Corey pushed for a 10% share in the store and threatened to depart another company should his demand not be satisfied. He finally obtained a 5% participation, therefore confirming his dedication to the family company and maybe guaranteeing a bigger share in the future. The dating life of Corey Harrison has been erratic. 2009 saw him wed his high school girlfriend Charlene. 6 years later, they decided to call it quits and finalized it in 2015. Corey wed Karina Kiki Harrison in May 2017. Their marriage lasted a little over a year before they sought divorce. Corey stressed that their parting was friendly, even if their rigorous work schedules drove them apart. October 2018 saw Corey and Karina welcoming their baby Richard Benjamin Harrison. Though many marriages and divorces provide difficulties, Corey is focused on co-parenting and building a bright future for his expanding family. Corey Harrison had major weight reduction surgery in 2014 after finding he was pre-diabetic some years previously. Concerned about his health, Corey decided for lap band surgery, which produced a startling change. From his roughly 400-pound starting weight, he dropped around 200 pounds. He changed his diet and exercise schedule significantly after the operation to help his well-being even more. Corey said he hadn't known he was that ill and uncomfortable until he started dropping weight. Losing 50 pounds in almost 6 weeks feels like someone snatched a bag loaded with boulders. You may therefore really start visiting the gym and find greater ease in working out. Though stories abound about Corey having medical issues, including a brain attack, these assertions are speculative and unsubstantiated. Actually, Corey is in great health. He follows a rigorous diet and has under-controlled weight. Corey and his family have suffered greatly after the recent death of Adam Harrison, younger brother of Corey Harrison, on January 20th, 2024, aged 39. Corey and Adam bonded strongly as they are sons of Pawn Stars producer and star Rick Harrison. Corey's emotional well-being has suffered as he battles the grief of his brother's unexpected death. In a moving tribute, Corey posted a childhood picture on Instagram emphasizing treasured memories with his brother. Adam did not show up on Pawn Stars, but his influence was much felt in the family and among supporters. The loss of Adam emphasizes the great effect of losing a loved one and adds to the anguish the family experienced after the death of their grandpa. Corey Big Hoss Harrison got into legal hot water on September 8, 2023, when a Las Vegas Police Department officer stopped him for drifting into a bike lane while operating his white Ford F-250 truck at 2 a.m. The officer said that Corey's car smelled strongly of alcohol and that his eyes were bloodshot. Early Friday morning, Metro Police arrested Pawn Stars Corey Harrison for drunk driving. Earlier that day, after shooting an episode of Pawn Stars Do America, Corey had flown back to Las Vegas from Minnesota. When asked, Corey acknowledged drinking one drink on the aircraft around 7 hours before. Still, the police performed a field sobriety test where Corey struggled to keep his balance while walking straight forward. He thus failed the exam. Since the breathalyzer equipment allegedly broke, Corey was then ordered to have a blood test to ascertain his blood alcohol level. Corey was arrested later, even though the findings of the blood test were not revealed. Claiming he only failed the field sobriety test owing to a shin infection, he challenged the driving under the influence arrest and felt the tests were meant to fail him. Corey's license was not suspended, even though the blood test yielded no clear proof and he claimed an unfair detention. Citing it as an unjust stain on his image, he said he intended to contest the arrest using a Las Vegas-based attorney. Still unresolved, however, are issues about the accuracy of the damaged breathalyzer and the unreported blood test findings. If you loved Pawn Stars and the Harrison family, seeing their hardships probably disturbed you. A mother suing her own son was a tough scenario for all those involved. The Pawn Stars' circumstances and tragedies vividly highlight why combining family and business may cause problems. Adding to the conflict between Rick and his mother, recent worries about Rick's son, Corey, surfaced because of his major problems and arrests for driving under the influence. Apart from Corey's problems and tragedies, Chumlee and the pawn shop had a big obstacle as well. These were what? Watch to learn. Chumlee's difficulties and efforts. Chumlee's path on Pawn Stars has been one of unexpected events and meetings. Indeed, boss. Let's leave here. Allow us to proceed. Each enhances the particular charm of the performance and his own experiences with well-known personalities. The world of collecting has always captivated Chumlee, notably the Pokemon card fad and the very sought-after Charizard cards. When considering their evolving worth, he notes previous sales patterns and mentions certain Charizard cards that sold for about $200,000 each, based on the first edition of Charizard. Considered as the crown gem of the Pokemon universe is the card itself. And in what value terms? Within the spectrum of $50,000 to $100,000, with one even falling into the upper $200,000 bracket. He contrasts this with more extensive collections, implying that some of these very valuable cards may pay for the total lot purchase cost. Talking about the erratic character of market patterns, Chumlee discusses the effect of the epidemic. At first, he anticipated prices to fall. Instead, he saw demand and shortage. He freely acknowledges selling some of his own Pokemon cards too early during the crisis in expectation of a devaluation never seen. This story emphasizes the challenges and uncertainty collectors must deal with when scheduling their sales and acquisitions. Chumlee also talks about the expanding trend in card collecting in many sports and genres. He highlights the limitations of new releases and the growing rarity of premium cards, which piques collector interest and drives up prices. He emphasizes that in order to raise rarity and desirability, contemporary card producers are purposefully restricting output, therefore benefiting the collector market. Grounded in his pawnbroker background, Chumlee adopts a pragmatic approach even if he personally enjoys collecting, particularly Star Wars stuff. He would rather spend money on contemporary objects he thinks will be valued in the future than on pricey historical objects. Expecting their eventual collection value, his approach is on products appealing to today's young. Chumlee negotiates the complexity of the collector's market and acknowledges its volatility, but, for those who pay close attention to its features, she is optimistic about its profitability. His perspective blends market knowledge, expertise, and a personal love of pawnbroking and collecting. Readers will remember when Rick paid $300 for dolls, only to find they were worth around $250 later. Given Rick's reputation for detesting losing money on transactions, Chumlee's validation as accurate offered him some relief. Having spent several years working with Rick and the crew, Chumlee observes that at their company such situations are unusual but unavoidable. Every team member offers unique viewpoints and knowledge, which shapes views on purchases. In this scenario, Chumlee's evaluation was exactly accurate, which lightens the matter. When Chumlee thinks back on earlier errors, she notes occasions when Rick purchased goods that proved to be counterfeit or less valuable than intended. These included vintage records and artifacts without appropriate authentication before acquisition. Drawing lessons from past mistakes, Rick now makes sure everything is checked completely before making big purchases to prevent any losses from inaccurate value. Chumlee admits that the pawn industry involves unpredictability and danger regardless of sporadic mistakes. Oftentimes, quick decisions are required since sellers might move their goods elsewhere should an offer not be made right away. Sometimes this urgency means accepting measured risks since results are not always positive. From managing value, authenticity, and market changes to success in this special business, Chumley's viewpoint clarifies the difficulties and sporadic successes of running a pawn shop. Chumley thought back on his best and worst purchases from his time at the pawn shop, offering an understanding of the highs and lows of working with rare objects. Before the show began, he freely admitted to one of his worst deals. A stand-up bass guitar pawned for a sizable sum turned out to be fake. The item never was reclaimed, costing $155,000. Chumley admitted that although this was a setback, he grew from it and had lately made wiser decisions. Did Chumley actually grow from these events, or did they cause his incarceration? Let us know. Recent difficulties in contemplation. Conversely, Chumley flaunted a new chair she had bought, designed by an artist who had appeared in one of her episodes. Describing it as a work of practical art, he praised goods that combined form and function, highlighting his love of art and great workmanship. When asked about his perfect object, Chumley loved samurai swords, especially those from the early 1500s. Prominent consumers like UFC President Dana White would usually be the first to buy these pieces because of their historical significance and excellent workmanship. Chumley mentioned two things he truly loved: the Chum collection and the Charizard card lot, while considering things he might have done differently. For Chumley, these items were aspirational since they matched his interests and were much sought after, but logistical or financial constraints prevented the store from acquiring them. Chumley claimed he chose not to shop there instead of buying anything for himself since he opposed the need for such. Working at the pawn shop presented a daily challenge that tested my respect for the great range of items passing through and my self-control. Given the developments in the pawn shop business, especially in view of the epidemic, Chumley thought about this subject during a recent interview. He reassured them that the fundamental pawn business is still booming, even if there might be fewer consumers for a number of different reasons. Whether to handle unforeseen expenses or tide them over until their next pay, many still turn to pawning as a source of short-term loans independent of the state of the economy. Regarding his mistakes with previous Rolex watches from before his visit at Pawn Stars, Chumley was quite honest. He used his experience to play on the need for caution around valuable items like Rolexes. He admitted to being the cast member most often fooled by fakes and usually calls Corey or Rick before making late-night purchases. This learning curve has changed his approach to evaluating customer-brought products. In an episode featuring Jake, Corey's younger brother, Rick used Chumley's past with fake Rolexes as a teaching tool. This reflected the shop's live-and-learn approach, in which mistakes are seen as chances for development by everyone, including rookie team players like Jake. Despite the epidemic and the inherent risks in the business, Chumley underlined the tenacity of their operations and the ongoing relevance of pawn shops in giving consumers financial answers. When asked about the most unusual experience he had with a pawn shop customer, Chumley related an intriguing story during his stay guarding the night window. Chumley had to call for an ambulance when a client came in to pawn something but started feeling unwell. This event made clear how erratic interactions before the show's fame were when they drew a more eccentric crowd than the range of customers they currently draw. One of the most fun parts of his job, he said, is with customers who insist on the worth of their goods in the face of contradicting data. These folks must understand that there are alternative means of income than selling shoes. When asked about anything that infuriated Rick the most, he thought back to an event involving a chair he had bought. He was thrilled with it. Chumley has admitted guilt so often throughout the years that it is difficult to pinpoint one. Rick usually cools down quickly, hence even if he is angry with him, he stays calm. Chumley said despite his regular errors, he earned Rick's irritation, especially after buying a fake item. When asked about it, Chumley claimed that his most profitable purchase for the pawn company had been a set of gold coins. But he did attract attention to a large purchase, a Beatles record collection, that was included on the show. Though he couldn't pinpoint it, he remembered dishing out more than $10,000, probably around $20,000, in total. After the auction of the whole collection, they earned a few $1,000s. After making a purchase for the show, Chumley explained, they normally have to hold on to it for 90 days, or longer if it's going to be in an episode. Since things may be stored for up to a year before being sold, this practice made inventory management problematic. They have now begun trying to sell goods quicker, regardless of whether they will appear in the next seasons or not, in order to avoid having too many products on hand. As Chumley noted while discussing the stress of clinging to things, the fraction of their firm shown on television represents less than 1% of their whole operations. Value fluctuations make it tough to cling to things, but they have changed their strategy for selling items based on their current value. The largest item someone tried to sell, Chumley remembered, was a choo-choo train. More than anything else in the shop, including cars, he handled trains. They failed to find tanks on a previous road trip. Although it paid around $5,000, Rick found the real train used to go about a mall to be uncomfortable as it occupied so much space. Apart from his appearance on Pawn Stars, Chumley had a cameo on iCarly. Playing the part of himself, he co-starred alongside Rick and Corey Harrison in the episode Lost My Head in Vegas. Still unknown is the reason Chumley was imprisoned. Has anything gone wrong? Watch on to learn more. Legal conflicts of Chumley. The police investigate that focused on Chumley's Las Vegas residence changed his public image and disturbed his life away from the spotlight. Originally responding to a sexual misconduct allegation, a search of Chumley's house by Las Vegas police in March 2016 disturbed the peace of his life. His house was raided by cops this afternoon. Claiming to be investigating a sexual assault, authorities said they searched his house. They said they found amphetamine, marijuana, and illegal weaponry. This inquiry turned up the startling discovery of weapons and drugs. Among his weapons were pistols, revolvers, rifles, and shotguns. Among his drugs were methamphetamine and marijuana. Among these firearms were those kept in a safe inside his house. Among numerous rooms whose contents the police mention in great detail was the well-known Chum room with a dance pole. Quite different from Chumley's picture on television, the investigators also found narcotics, paraphernalia, and money with drug traces. His first resistance to open his vault highlighted the weight of the matter. Though he claims it contained personal items like firearms and drugs for his own use, there are laws prohibiting drug users from possessing weapons. This contradiction led the authorities to confiscate weapons and drugs, therefore preparing the ground for an extended legal battle. Charged with felony, possession of a weapon, and drug charges, Chumley set off a complex legal path that would change his public view. The media attacked Chumley after his arrest, delving into his public and personal life in every capacity. His lawyer, David Chesnoff, built a strong case. Trisha, Ricky, and Chumley have all worked here for around 10 years. He spent 5 minutes beating from the reality show. Tonight we have a big gathering. The firm is still quiet. I have heard from supporters who are shocked even though they say they have not yet spoken with Chumley. On the show, laugh out loud, clever and funny. The plea bargain was a turning point because it offered a road forward even under difficult conditions. Chumley entered a guilty plea accepting reduced counts, including felony weapon possession. As part of the plea agreement, he had to turn in the firearms the court had seized and follow therapy and probation. His efforts to embrace his errors, mend his reputation, and get back on his feet marked a significant turning point. Your perspective on this would be much sought for. Regarding the likelihood that more is happening here, what do you believe? Post your comments in the allotted area. I am glad I could tune into this video. If you find this content fascinating and would like updates on the newest celebrity rumors, kindly like, subscribe, and comment below.